All right, get ready to dive deep. Today, it's all about Ikigai and longevity. We've got an amazing mix of sources for this one. Ancient philosophy, the latest research, even some practical tips.
Yeah, it should be fascinating to see what we discover.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to explore this idea of not just adding years to life, but adding, life to those years.
Exactly. And speaking of living a life full of meaning, that's where Ikigai comes in. It's really the perfect place to start our deep dive.
Okay, so Ikigai. We've all heard the term, right? But what's the deeper meaning? What's beyond just find a job you like?
Well, it's a lot deeper than that. It's more like, think of it as that sweet spot where your passions, talents, values, they all come together. And it's got to be a way you can contribute to the world too. One source even called that the true essence of Ikigai.
Reminds me of that line, being just one book away from being amazed.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what discovering your Ikigai is all about, like unlocking that amazement.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Uh,
And speaking of living amazing lives, our sources take us to Okinawa, Japan. It's known for having tons of centenarians.
the famous blue zones. These
Right.
places where people seem to have cracked the code for longevity. What really jumped out at you about the Okinawan lifestyle?
Well, one thing is their focus on not worrying, like really not worrying. One source just straight up says, don't worry. They seem to have figured out how to be relaxed to accept whatever life throws at them.
I can see how that would make a huge difference. We all know how stress can impact us, right?
Right.
What other interesting things did you find about how they live?
Oh, tons. Building good habits is really central to their approach, and not just the usual diet and exercise stuff. They put a huge emphasis on friendships, on having strong connections with people. There's even a reminder in one source that says, nurture your friendships every day.
It's not just about living longer then. It's about living better with strong relationships. Makes you wonder if our modern lifestyle, where everyone's so focused on themselves, if that's actually working against us. What else did you learn about their approach?
Well, they also emphasize living an unhurried life. You know, slowing down and appreciating the simple things. One quote that really struck me was, eat and sleep and you'll live a long time. You have to learn to relax.
There's so much wisdom in that, isn't there? In that simplicity. It really challenges that always-on hustle mentality we have. Did you find anything about how they managed to stay so calm in our crazy, fast-paced world?
That's where Morita therapy comes in. It's a Japanese therapy that doesn't focus on analyzing feelings like a lot of Western approaches do. It's more about accepting those feelings, even the uncomfortable ones, and taking action instead of getting stuck in your head.
So instead of dwelling on stuff, you acknowledge it and keep moving forward. Kind of like that Okinawan idea of not worrying.
Exactly. There's even this quote from one of the sources, everything's fine. Simple, but powerful. It's like a reminder that even when things are tough, there's a basic okayness to life.
I love that. It speaks to a kind of resilience, right? But what about finding meaning, especially during those difficult times? We can't just ignore the hard stuff, can we?
That's where logotherapy comes in. It focuses on the importance of finding meaning in life, seeing that as what drives well-being. It really connects with that Ikigai concept we were talking about.
So it's not just about living longer. It's about having a purpose, a reason to get up every day. Seems like the Okinawans have a lot to teach us about that. Were there any specific practices or beliefs that really stood out to you?
One that I found really interesting was this concept of the management spirits of the Yanbaru jungle. The Yanbaru jungle is this area in Okinawa known for its nature and traditional way of life.
Management spirits. That sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
It seems to come from the indigenous people of Okinawa. They believe in these three spirits that guide you towards a good and balanced life.
What are those three spirits, and what do they stand for?
The first one is don't worry, which again reinforces that Okinawan idea of acceptance, of going with the flow. Then there's be grateful for what you have, reminding us to appreciate the simple things. And lastly, be kind to people, emphasizing connection and community.
I can see how those three principles could really create a powerful way of living. Were there any specific examples you found of how those spirits show up in their everyday lives?
One example that stood out to me was their approach to community gatherings. They have these regular events called moai where people get together to socialize, support each other, share things. It really embodies that be kind to people spirit.
That sounds amazing. A great way to build strong bonds and a sense of belonging. But let's switch gears a bit. We've talked about mindset, but what about the practical stuff? Like, what role does diet play in all of this?
One source talks about an anti-cancer diet, which is all about a plant-based approach, focusing on whole foods and mindful eating. It highlights the link between what we eat and how long we live, suggesting that our diet plays a huge role in our health and lifespan.
It makes sense. Like they say, you are what you eat. But what does mindful eating actually look like in practice? Is it just about chewing slowly?
It's more than that, though that's part of it. It's about really paying attention to your food, to the whole experience of eating, slowing down, savoring each bite, being present in the moment instead of just mindlessly gobbling things down.
It's like applying mindfulness to eating, right? And really, you could apply that to any part of life.
Exactly. It's about bringing awareness to everything we do, even something as basic as eating. And that awareness helps us make healthier choices and appreciate those simple pleasures more fully.
So, mindful eating, check. What other gems did you dig up from our sources? What else should we be paying attention to?
Well, the World Health Organization has what they call 10 commandments of longevity.
Commandments. Wow, that sounds serious. Lay it on me, what's the first one?
The first one is moderate food intake. Basically, portion control is key, which goes back to what we were just saying about mindful eating.
Makes sense? Don't overdo it. What's next?
Breakfast like a king. Seems like starting your day with a good, nourishing meal sets you up for success, gives you energy, helps you make healthier choices throughout the day.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
A good breakfast is the best way to start the day. What else is on the list?
Next up is avoid snacks. Might be tough for some of us, but it's about giving your digestion a break and not taking in extra calories you don't need.
Interesting. So it's not just what you eat, but when you eat, too. Any other commandments that stood out to you?
Yeah, the next ones are stay active and maintain ideal weight. Pretty straightforward, but good reminders about how important physical activity is for a long and healthy life.
Those are pretty standard recommendations.
I-
What about the less obvious ones? Anything that surprised you?
Well, there's drink in moderation and no smoking, which are good advice, but not exactly groundbreaking.
True, true. What about the last two? Any hidden wisdom there?
Number 9 is practice good posture, something a lot of us forget about, but it makes a big difference for our well-being. And finally, be cheerful and enjoy life.
Ah, there's that emphasis on mindset again, on positivity. It's interesting how many of these commandments aren't just about the physical stuff. Mental and emotional well-being seem just as important.
Absolutely. Having a positive outlook, finding things to appreciate in life, it seems like those play a huge role in living a longer, happier life.
So far, we've got diet, exercise, social connection, purpose, a positive attitude. Anything else we could add to this recipe for longevity?
One source suggested adding gentle movement practices to our routines, things like yoga and Tai Chi. They can help you stay active, improve balance and flexibility, and even cultivate mindfulness.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not about pushing yourself to the limit, but finding ways to move your body that you can stick with and that help you connect with yourself.
Right. And it goes back to that Okinawan principle of living a slower, more intentional life. Remember that quote, eat, sleep, learn to relax. Gentle movement practices can be a great way to find that relaxation, that ease.
So it's about moving in a way that nourishes not just your body, but also your mind and spirit. But how do you know which practice is right for you? There are so many types of yoga and Tai Chi out there.
That's a great question, and it's something you can explore further on your own. There are so many styles, each with its own focus and benefits. Some are more physically challenging, others are more about relaxation and meditation.
It's about finding what feels good for you, what fits your needs and preferences.
Exactly. Listen to your body and find what resonates with you.
Okay, we've talked about movement, mindfulness. What about aging? The mental and emotional side of it. Did any of the sources offer insights into navigating those challenges?
They did. One source explored this Japanese philosophy called wabi-sabi. It's a way of looking at the world that embraces imperfection and impermanence. I found it really insightful.
Wabi-sabi, that's a new one for me. Can you tell me a bit more about it? How does it relate to longevity and well-being?
Well, instead of striving for this unattainable ideal of perfection, wabi-sabi is about appreciating the beauty in simple things, in what's natural in imperfection.
So instead of being afraid of wrinkles and gray hair, we appreciate them as signs of a life well lived.
Exactly. It's about shifting our perspective on aging, from fear to acceptance, seeing it as a natural part of life.
I love that. It's very grounding.
And empowering. When you embrace imperfection, you take off the pressure of having to be perfect, You can relax into the present moment and appreciate what is.
Do you think this wabi-sabi mindset might be part of why Okinawans live so long? Maybe by embracing impermanence and imperfection, they let go of stress and find more peace.
That's a fascinating thought, and it makes me wonder if adopting a wabi-sabi perspective could help us all live longer, healthier, and more fulfilling lives.
It really makes you think. It seems like longevity isn't just about diet and exercise, but about cultivating a mindset that embraces life's ups and downs and finds beauty in everyday moments.
Exactly. It's about shifting our focus from trying to control everything to accepting what is and finding peace right here, right now.
Wow, this deep dive's already giving me so much to think about. I can't wait to see what other insights we uncover as we continue our exploration.
Me too. There's clearly so much to learn from these sources, and I'm excited to see how it all comes together to create a more complete picture of longevity and well-being. Welcome back to our deep dive.
One thing that keeps coming up for me is mindfulness. Whether it's that Okinawan unhurried life, mindful eating, or those gentle movement practices we were talking about, it seems like being present is a big part of this longevity puzzle.
It's true. Mindfulness really is about focusing on the present moment without judgment, tuning into your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without letting them carry you away.
Yeah, I know. I spent way too much time on autopilot, just rushing through the day, worrying about the future, dwelling on the past. We miss so much when we're not really present.
That's exactly it. But when we practice mindfulness, we can start to slow down, breathe deeply, appreciate the little things. We become more aware of our choices so we can make sure they line up with what we really value.
It's like we're taking back control, becoming the authors of our own lives instead of just reacting to everything.
Exactly. And the great thing is you can weave mindfulness into every part of your life. Walking, eating, listening, even working. It can all be done with mindful awareness.
So it's not about adding another thing to your to-do list, but changing your perspective, bringing more awareness to everything you do. But is there actually any proof that this makes a difference?
Oh, the research is fascinating. Studies have actually shown that mindfulness can reduce stress, help you sleep better, make you more focused, and even boost your immune system. It's not just about feeling good. There are real benefits for your well-being.
That's amazing. Okay, so mindfulness joins our growing list for longevity. Purpose, connection, healthy habits, a positive outlook. What else can we add to this recipe?
One source talked about having a plan B for retirement. I found that really thought-provoking.
A plan B for retirement. Usually I think of plan B as something you have if things go wrong. What does that even look like when it comes to retirement?
It's more about changing how you view retirement, not as some dreaded ending, but as a brand new chapter. So many people worry about being bored, lonely, or losing their sense of purpose once they stop working.
It's like having something exciting to look forward to, something that gives you a reason to get out of bed, even when you don't have to go to work anymore. Did the source give any examples?
Absolutely. It could be anything that brings you joy and fulfillment. Volunteering, hobbies, maybe even starting a business, traveling, spending more time with family and friends. The key is to have something that gives you a sense of purpose, that keeps you engaged with life.
That makes a lot of sense. I think as humans, we need something to strive for, something that gives meaning to our lives. Retirement shouldn't be the end of that.
I agree. It's about redefining what retirement means and creating a fulfilling life beyond your career. Instead of winding down, it's more like gearing up for new adventures.
So it's not just about living longer, but about making sure those extra years are rich and meaningful. And having a plan B can help ensure that we continue to thrive even after we're done with the 9-to-5 grind.
Exactly. It's about embracing the opportunities that come with each stage of life and really making the most of our time here. Retirement can be a time for exploring, growing, starting fresh.
As we go through these sources, I'm noticing a theme here. It's not about finding this one magic solution to living longer, but about combining all these different practices, habits, and mindsets that support well-being.
That's a great observation. It's like we're creating a symphony of longevity. Each element complements and enhances the others.
And it's a symphony that we can all compose, no matter who we are or where we are in life. We're not just passengers on this aging journey. We can actively shape our experience.
You're absolutely right. It's about taking charge of our health and well-being and making sure our choices align with our values and what we want out of life.
Speaking of choices, one source talked about decision-making in the context of longevity, specifically avoiding something called decision fatigue. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. Decision fatigue is that feeling of mental exhaustion you get after making too many decisions, even little ones. It drains your mental energy and can lead to bad choices, especially when it comes to your health and well-being.
So it's not just about making the right choices, but about having the mental energy to keep making good ones. That makes sense. What did the source suggest for dealing with decision fatigue?
One suggestion was to create routines and habits that take care of some of those everyday choices for you. Things like planning your meals ahead of time, laying out your workout clothes the night before, sticking to a regular sleep schedule. Little things like that can free up mental space for the bigger decisions.
That sounds really practical. Take those smaller decisions off your plate so you can focus on making good choices for the things that really matter.
Exactly. The source also suggested setting aside specific times to make important decisions when your mind is fresh and less likely to be tired. It's about being strategic with your decision making.
It's like scheduling a meeting with yourself for those big decisions instead of trying to fit them in when you're already overwhelmed. I like that.
Me too. And when you take steps to prevent decision fatigue, you can be sure you're making choices that really support your well being in the long run.
It's all about setting ourselves up for success, both today and in the future. We've covered so much today: Ikigai, those Okinawan secrets, mindfulness, decision fatigue. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
I think the biggest takeaway is that longevity isn't about some magic potion or a one-size-fits-all formula. It's about making conscious choices, building healthy habits, and creating a life that's full of meaning, connection, and joy.
That's beautiful. And it seems like mindfulness plays a huge role in all of that. By being present and aware, we can make better decisions, appreciate the good times, and handle challenges with more grace and strength.
Absolutely. Mindfulness is like the thread that ties together all those other elements of longevity, creating this beautiful, complex tapestry of well-being.
And it's a tapestry we can all weave no matter where we are on our journey. It's never too late to start incorporating these ideas and reap the benefits of a longer, healthier, and more fulfilling life.
I agree. And speaking of reaping benefits, one source talked about the benefits of gratitude. Cultivating a sense of appreciation for the good things in your life. They said it can have a huge impact on your overall well-being.
I can see that. When you focus on what you're grateful for, it shifts your perspective, right? From what you're missing to what you already have.
Yeah.
Like seeing the world with an abundance mindset instead of a scarcity mindset.
Exactly. And the science actually supports this. Gratitude has been linked to reduced stress, better sleep, increased empathy, and even a stronger immune system.
Wow, so it's not just about feeling good, it's good for you. But how do you actually cultivate gratitude when life gets tough? It's easy to be grateful when things are going well, but what about when you're facing challenges?
That's a great point. Gratitude isn't about ignoring the hard things. It's about finding things to appreciate, even when things are difficult. It could be the support of loved ones, a beautiful sunset, a moment of peace in the midst of chaos. It's about training your mind to look for the positive, even when it's felt to see.
So it's like a muscle you can strengthen with practice. The more you focus on gratitude, the easier it is to find things to appreciate, even in tough times.
You got it. And the great thing about gratitude is that it's so simple. Anyone can do it. You can keep a gratitude journal, write thank you notes, or just take a few minutes each day to think about what you're grateful for.
Sounds like a small change that could make a big difference. What other simple but powerful practices did the sources talk about?
One source talked about laughter and playfulness. They argued that as adults, we get so caught up in responsibility that we forget to have fun.
It's so true. We really do take ourselves way too seriously sometimes. Did the source suggest any specific ways to bring more play into our lives?
It said it's important to do things that bring you joy, whether it's spending time with people you love, pursuing a hobby, reading a good book, or even just going for a walk in nature.
It's about giving yourself permission to let loose, be silly, reconnect with that inner child. Love it. Did the source talk about any specific benefits of play?
It said playfulness is linked to less stress, a better mood, more creativity, and even stronger relationships. When we allow ourselves to play, we're more present, relaxed, and connected to the people around us.
Makes sense. Play brings people together, creates a sense of shared joy and connection. Okay, so we've added gratitude, laughter, and play to our longevity toolkit. What other nuggets of wisdom did you find?
One theme that kept popping up was balance, finding that sweet spot, whether it's work and play, activity and rest, indulging and holding back. Balance seems to be key for a long and happy life.
Balance, that's a big one. But what does it really mean in practice? It can seem like such an abstract idea.
Yeah, it can be a bit hard to pin down, but I think it's about creating harmony within yourself and with the world around you. It's about not doing too much of one thing, but not depriving yourself either. Pushing your limits, but also honoring your need for rest.
It makes sense. When you're always pushing for more, you're bound to burn out. But when you embrace moderation and find joy in simple things, you create a more sustainable and fulfilling life.
Exactly. And balance isn't just about finding a happy medium in everything you do. It's also about realizing that what you need and what's important to you can change over time. What feels balanced at one point in your life might need adjusting later on. For example, the balance you need in your 20s when you're focused on your career might look totally different from the balance you need in your 60s when you're retired.
So it's a dynamic process, not a fixed state. It's about checking in with yourself regularly and making changes to keep things in harmony.
Precisely. And the cool thing about balance is that it's not about perfection. It's about finding what works for you and making choices that support your well-being.
It's about listening to your body, knowing your limits, and giving yourself permission to rest, recharge, and enjoy the journey.
That's it. And I think that's a powerful message. Longevity isn't just about adding years to your life. It's about adding life to your years, creating a life that's balanced, fulfilling, and true to who you are.
Well said. It sounds like balance really is a key ingredient in all of this. By finding that sweet spot between effort and ease, indulgence and restraint, we can create a life that's both sustainable and enjoyable.
You got it. Balance is like the foundation of a long and healthy life. It's what supports everything else.
And it's something we can build through conscious choices, mindful practices, and a willingness to adapt as needed.
Exactly. Balance isn't a destination, it's a journey. It's a lifelong exploration of what it means to live a truly meaningful and fulfilling life.
Well said. We've covered a lot in this episode, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more to explore.
I agree. That's what's so exciting about this topic. Longevity is this multifaceted, always evolving concept. There's always more to learn, more to experience, more ways to grow.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Ikigai and longevity. It's been quite a journey, wouldn't you say? Exploring all these different aspects of what it means to live a long and happy life.
It really has. We've uncovered so much, from ancient traditions to modern research. It's like weaving together all these insights about purpose, connection, mindfulness, balance.
And it's amazing how interconnected it all is. It's not about finding that one magic trick for longevity, but about creating this whole symphony of practices and perspectives that support our well-being.
You put it perfectly. It's like we're each composing our own longevity symphony, taking inspiration from different cultures and traditions, but making it our own, something unique to us.
As we wrap up, is there anything that's really sticking with you? Something that shifted your perspective or really resonated?
You know, one thing that keeps coming back to me is this idea of legacy. It's not just about living a long life, but about leaving behind something meaningful, making a positive impact on the world.
Legacy.
Yeah.
I usually think of that word in terms of big achievements or lots of money, but how do you see it connecting to longevity and well-being?
Well, one source had a really beautiful way of looking at legacy. It's not necessarily about grand gestures or leaving behind a fortune. It can be about those everyday things. The relationships you build, the kindness you show, the values you live by, the impact you have on the people around you.
So it's about living a life that matters, that makes a difference, even in small ways.
Yeah.
It's about the ripple effect of your actions, the positive energy you put out into the world.
Exactly. It's about realizing that what you do, even small things, can have a lasting impact. Like planting seeds of kindness, compassion, inspiration, things that will keep growing even after you're gone.
That's a beautiful thought.
Yeah,
We can all leave behind a legacy of love and positivity that outlives us.
I think so. And that's a powerful message to carry with us. It's not just about adding years to our lives, but about adding life to our years and leaving the world a little bit better than we found it.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And I think it captures what we've been exploring today, from the wisdom of Ikigai to the science of mindfulness to the simple power of kindness.
I agree. It's been an amazing journey, and I hope our listeners feel inspired to take what they've learned and apply it to their own lives, to create their own unique path to well-being.
Absolutely. To our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Ikigai and longevity. We hope you've gained some valuable insights, maybe even some new ideas about how to live a longer, healthier, and more fulfilling life.
Keep exploring these ideas, see what speaks to you, and create your own recipe for a life that's full of purpose, joy, and deep connection.
And until next time, may you live each day with intention, gratitude, and a deep appreciation for this incredible journey we call life.
And may you always remember the power of your own Ikigai to guide you towards a life that's both meaningful and